Hey Kartik, welcome to the show.
We should first figure out what we want to do with our lives, how do we want to work and, live. Okay, it's fine, enough is enough. Let me go do my thing. Let me take out time for personal life, whatever that may be. Spend time with my daughter, be able to, see her, every single day, go out, be with the first person for her to cycle with and things like that, right? If you want to be 50 and not have a regret living your life, then this is the right place to be.
The younger folks have this much clarity.
The new generation in many ways is so much smarter than mine, because they know that working for 4 more hours is not going to change my life 10 years down the line. Every generation, I think, tries to make the same mistake as we manage people in the same way we were managed.
Inevitably, there's going to be companies who, while there's always going to be large companies who will call folks back, there's going to be smaller companies who will go remote first. Given that you guys have done this for so long and done it so amazingly well, wanted to sort of look at it as, say, a playbook or sort of like principles. So broadly breaking it down step by step.
Every person at some level wants to be looked as that they are working hard. They're online all the time, they're working. But is that moving the needle? Maybe not, right?
Hey Kartik, welcome to the show. Super excited to have you here.
Thank you so much, Rana, for having me. I've heard so many of your podcasts on LinkedIn and YouTube now.
Yeah, thanks for that. So Kartik wanted to do this for a long time, but Kartik is the co-founder and CEO of Springworks. Springworks has multiple HR tech products such as Spring Verify, which is into BGB, Engage With, which is into rewards and recognitions. Just a call out, we also use Engage With at the company that I work at. Trivia, which is games, sort of like a gamification tool and games on Slack. And also, honestly, I think you guys built out one of the first HR AI products I have at least seen in my network called Albus. Anyone, I think, who's on LinkedIn, especially based out of Bangalore, for sure would have heard of Springworks. They are a remote first company and have a very, very visibly amazing culture, right? And I think Glassdoor and everyone is testament to that. And that, I think, Karthik, is one of the prime reasons why I wanted you to be on the show to talk all about working remote and other things and give us actionable insights on how to run a remote culture, especially now, given that companies have started calling their employees back, right? And I think before we went live, you and I were discussing about Bangalore traffic, what's happening in Noida, right?
Yeah,
This is not probably the best time to be calling your employees back, but it's happening, right? And thought you're the ideal person to just talk about how you've been
sure.
running a great culture with remote first. So, Karthik, first question, very first principles. Why remote?
So I think we should take a step back from remote. We should first figure out what we want to do with our lives. How do we want to work and live? I think that's a more important question because remote does have its disadvantages in terms of speed, agility, and output, whatnot. I think taking a step back from remote, the way we want to run, our company and I want to live personally is to have a great, this glorified work-life balance, spend time with my daughter, be able to, see her, every single day, go out, be with the first person for her to cycle with and things like that, right? And also the same, philosophy goes across the company, right? I think this is just a better way to live and work. It definitely limits your ambitions to an extent. It makes you slower. You're able to move less faster than a company which is probably in person and then a team which is in person. You might not be always at your customers offices and be ready to meet them. There are regulatory challenges. We were trying to get this one compliance standard, and they said we have not yet done this for remote companies. What do you mean when you don't have a fingerprint access? What do you mean you don't have a camera in your office, right? It still raises a pause. Oh, where can I come meet you? And we say we don't have an office. We have a registered office which is required by law to collect mail. It still raises a pause, right? It's not easiest running a remote company, B2B remote company in India, selling to Indian customers primarily, the HR space, because the clients, the customer is most likely in office. So they don't completely relate to it. So yeah, answering your question, I think it's just a better way of living your life and working with it. You cut down a lot of faff of working in office. You focus on the work. Yes, you have a downside on being transactional, but then and people keep even people in our team say, Karthik, we don't really connect at a personal level. Everything is very transactional. One person got married, I didn't even get to know, right? Yes, 100%. But my question is, does that matter, right? Like, let's all get the work
Right.
done and move on with our lives. Definitely helps. There are escalations, text, easier, very easier to wrong or misinterpret someone's message, and that okay, that person was actually very rude, or has probably been very curt, very direct, but in person you'll probably see the facial expression and things like that, right? You have a lot, you have a better relationship. So those problems keep happening, and if you know the
Mhm.
person's personal side, you'll probably give them some slack, right? So there are those challenges, but I think it's just a better way of living your life and work, with the caveat being, have to you have to first take a very deep, you have to look at yourself and introspect what do you want, from life. If you want to be building a unicorn, you want to be the next billionaire, millionaire, then this is probably not the right company. This is not the right journey for you. If you want to be 50 and not have a regret, living
Mhm.
your life, then this is the right place to be. I think money you can make in many ways. That's not a problem. Companies in the US have already shown that. Even in India, we've seen bootstrap companies, whatnot, have kind of done similar journeys.
So that's a lovely way of thinking about it. But I'm curious, Karthik. So this was this like an organic decision that happened, or you consciously took it that we are going to from day one? It was written in stone that we will be remote only because for me these are my priorities.
Not really. So, before COVID, we were not remote. So the way we
Okay.
used to do was we used to be in the office 12 to 8, and we were mostly all, in the age of, say, 24 to 28 back then. Small team,
Mm.
25-person team, 20, 25 people. And the goal was, 12 to 6, actually. No, 2 to 8, 2 to 8 or 12 to 6. And the goal was to avoid the Bangalore traffic, right? Everyone
Mm.
was okay doing later in the evening, because no one had families at that point. The goal was to avoid Bangalore traffic and just spend 4 to 6 hours in the office and rest, from home or wherever you want, right? We used to have meals in the office, breakfast, lunch, dinner for people who were there, stuff like that. So I think in 3 days a week, in the office, 3 to 4 days a week in the office. We were already hybrid before the hybrid word, I think, was invented. But definitely COVID forced us to go remote. And then I think 3 months later, we said, this is just a better way of,
Mm.
working, right? Let's just do it. But because of this culture, pre-COVID, we had a lot of our documentation, right? We had like a culture book, we had, a handbook, right? We had, we were, one of the first Slack, users from India. We were very, very
Mm.
text heavy. Even if we meet in person, we used to do, make sure that we take the minutes of the meeting, put in the agenda, those type of things, in writing. So that used to happen a lot. And I think that all of that kind of helped us, I guess, go remote easier. And we, scaled. We went from 250 to 250, 25 to 250, after COVID, right? So it was a big, scale for us, and we were able to do this, in remote.
Mm. So when you're hiring, right, is this a deterrent or does this sort of increase your tofu and folks you attract people more now?
Definitely attract people, because of remote. I think a lot of people are
Mm.
attracted to it. But at the same time, bootstrap remote sometimes acts as a deterrent when people are looking for fast growth. They were
Mm-hmm.
looking for faster decisions and, both for financial and career reasons. And we are very clear we're not Swiggy here. We are not here to build 1,000, crore business, or I guess not a 10,000 crore business, not a, $1 billion company, right? That definitely acts as a deterrent. So not just remote, but also the bootstrapped angle of it, right? The bootstrap
Mm-hmm.
profitable, sustainable angle. So I think it's a mix. Why it's positive in many ways is it kind of opens up people from outside of, say, Bangalore and tier one cities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that has been really helpful. And this is a trend in India now, right? There is a certain group of people kind of say reached, I don't know, say 20, 25 lakhs in salary, 30, 35 lakhs, have enough savings for the next 5 years, right? Maybe not the fire income, but enough, for rainy days, emergency, family, whatnot, and now want to, take a step back in career, or actually not a step forward, but like be status quo and say, oh, okay, I am fine with this growth, right? I don't want to be doing 50% a year, salary increase. I don't want to be making, I don't know, 25 lakhs more, but not live my life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that has been, I think, increasing growing trend in India, especially people who have actually made it, either with past experiences, things like that, right? And that could be folks in Bangalore, or even, folks in other cities who moved back, parents, or just have other hobbies, right? Like today, I
Mm-hmm.
was looking up this person, Ashish, who was the VP of engineering at Locus. I had interned with him, long back, I think 10 years ago. He is now a full-time, biker, right? He's doing some crazy solo biking ride in, Russia or something. I'm like, that's crazy. People do this, like quit very senior, fast paying, startup job, high growth, and pursue their lives, hobbies and whatnot. So people are doing this. We have many people in our team who, finish their work by 2 p.m., 3 p.m., and then just go enjoy, right? Do whatever they want. Obviously, there are a lot of moms as well, a lot of family folks, either for parents, medical reasons, or just want to enjoy the family life. So I think it's a mix, but it's a good trend where people are drawing boundaries between work and life, and at the same time taking a conscious call. Okay, this is how I want to lead my life, right? Not just work. Work is a part of it. It's
Mm-hmm.
definitely becoming, I think, a bigger increasing trend. People solve for basic necessities. There used to be this famous saying, right? Food, house, and whatever your emergency needs are covered, right? Once those are covered, people are now saying, okay, it's fine, enough is enough. Let me go do my thing. Let me take out time for personal life,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that may be, hobbies, family, sometimes even growth, sometimes education on the side, stuff like that, right? So I think it's
Mm-hmm.
it's becoming a trend now.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because from what I see, LinkedIn and folks that I know in your company, there are a lot of young people also, right? I would
Right.
assume a large set of your folks are younger folks who you're saying have already figured this out, or are they attracted by the remote for maybe other reasons, right? Because what you're saying makes sense, right? But I would assume it makes sense beyond a certain point in your life, right? You worked for a
Yeah,
few years, let's say you're on the family way, then your priorities
correct.
change, right? Then you want more family time or whatever it is, right? But
Yeah.
other younger folks have this much clarity, that they figured this out, that this is my priority and hence I'm on this track.
So that's a great question. The new generation in many ways is so much smarter than mine, because
Mm-hmm.
they know that working for 4 more hours is not going to change my life 10 years down the line. I'll probably be doing the same thing. I want to take out time to actually travel and enjoy. So I think they're taking a conscious call. Maybe it's the increased confidence in, the job economy, the job market, confidence in your skills, is it better, starting salaries compared to, what I was earning, and what was the market back then. So I think it's a mix of all of that, and also increased awareness of what is happening in the world, right? Like I don't want to be, I'm 34. I don't want to be 30, 34 and not, you know, have having to travel India or other countries, right? But at the same time, we our biggest attrition actually happens from the folks in this, age group, and they say we want to be remote, right? Two reasons. One is faster growth. They want to be in office, experience that culture. It helps. Just learning by osmosis definitely helps. Second is they want to be away from parents. That's mostly a societal construct in India, right? They want to be in a place where there are no rules, right? And that's just harder to do that, in a remote, setting, right? Because it's still not, from many different reasons, it's still not, I guess, normal if you live in a different place other than, your parents in the same city, right? So that's, and generally the reason to relocate is a job, right? Or, education. So that, is definitely a reason. But I am increasingly seeing people who are, very clear, this is what I want to do. I have my 8, 9 hours of work. I'll get it done. I'll do it really well. But then I want to do my other things, right? Some people also moonlight. They want to do two different jobs. They're like, okay, this is a great way for me to actually to do jobs because I cannot do that in an office setting because I'll spend so much time traveling, and that happens. And then obviously the last reason is financial. And like you live in a city like Bangalore, probably paying, close to 50 to 60% of your salary on, just taxes plus, accommodation, food, travel, whatnot, right? And remote, you save significantly more, compared to like a city like Bangalore, Delhi, Bombay, whatever.
I want to stay on Gen Z a little bit because you
Mm,
brought it up. If you recall, a couple of weeks back, this news article or this news post went viral, right? By India Post, I forgot by whom, which
mm,
and they spoke pretty negatively of Gen Zs, right? That Gen Zs are tough to coach, they are tough to take feedback, they're difficult to work with. In my company, more than 60% uh, are Gen Zs, right? And I
mm.
fundamentally disagree with what she said, but I wanted to
Yeah,
get your first take on this, uh, given that I'm pretty sure like a large part of your employee base is also Gen Zs. Do you
correct.
agree, disagree? And second, I'm just curious to sort of brainstorm or think about it, why this thought even comes, because she's not the only person who said it. I read the comments, a
Right.
lot of people agree, right? Now, is it just a false narrative
Sure.
or there's some truth? Where's this coming from? First, your take, and then this one.
Sure. No, I not read the post specifically, but I think I get the gist. No, I definitely disagree with the notion that, Gen Z is harder to work or harder to coach. Don't think that's the case, and they're probably in many ways more productive than, me. And I think it's also as a mix of reasons. One is they've gone through this COVID era. There's so much used to, text over voice, documentation culture. Second is a lot more awareness about, the world, having better access to technology, learning, content, whatnot. Third is, their ambitions are actually, in many ways not limited, right? Like, gone through this era of, Flipkarts and Swiggies and, whatever, Zomatos and all, right? Which, like, back then we only had Naukri, right? There was literally no other success story or, emphasis, right? Now they've kind of seen multiple of these things. Startups are mainstream. So yeah, I think a lot more ambition. But probably where the person is coming from is a lot of folks don't, like micromanagement, don't like, middle layer management, may not take feedback constructively. So I think those things are there because probably, it's a mix of reasons again. It's they think, we know most of these things. We know the things better than, you do. We have access to technology. We have, we've kind of seen what others have been able to do. So why are we not able to do it, right? So ambitions are much, much higher. It's overall, every generation, I think, tries to make the same mistake as we manage people in the same way we were managed. That's that's completely wrong thing to do it, because every generation is very different. The working culture has changed significantly. We have seen now with Amazon and all removing the layer of middle management, easily, being more ICs than managers. I think that's just a great trend. And sometimes it leads to managing, if done in a wrong way, leads to micromanagement, which a lot of people don't like. I have also been, kind of accused of, micromanagement, but I think there's a very fine line according to me. I personally believe founders should micromanage, but to an extent, not, oh no, what was done in this 1 hour, right? Like that, but things like, how can we do better? What did we learn today? Founders have to get to the level of execution, not straight the strategy. And for that, you have to really understand the work being done. What does it mean? How much effort is it? How does it work? Things like that. So there's a very fine line between micromanagement, but at the same time not being involved. Sometimes people take getting involved negatively. Oh, this person questioning, the way I work. In reality, it's actually, we are actually trying to improve. We're trying to understand how much time does it take to do a task, so we can break it down and try to improve. You can't really do that if don't understand how the task is actually done, right? So I think it's a mix of these things, but I completely disagree that Gen Zs are not great to work with, or not easy to coach. It's a very different way of working with them, and if you work with them well, people do really, really good.
I agree with you, and I think where this is coming from, little bit from my experience of working with Gen Z. I think Gen Zs they're just very honest. Right? They're very brutally just very honest in
Yes.
let's say giving feedback, taking feedback. Right? We were told that you have to take feedback lying down, right, just without questions. I've given
Yeah.
feedback and I've got questions back to which I was like, "Huh, you're right." I think there's a certain folks who probably can't take it. They don't accept it, right? So that another little Twitter thread that went viral or LinkedIn post, like one of the Gen Z employees asked his manager, "Hey, I'm going on leave," right? And
Yeah.
that became a whole debate. That is that the right way to ask for a leave? Of course it is.
Correct.
Like that's
Correct.
how I also do it. That's how my team
Should
does it.
be.
Like it's more FII than
Correct.
seeking permission, right? Because you're entitled to it. Um,
Correct.
so I think
Yeah, I think
probably a
it's a
mix of
lot
that.
more confidence which is there, right? Like yeah, as in it's a great trend, right? People are a lot more confident on their abilities now. And I don't think that was the case, at least when I started. And you always would think, oh, what if I get, laid off, right? What if I get fired, right? Now people are like, no, yeah, that's fine. This company does not work out. I'll go find something else in a month, right? Faster. So that's a great, I think development for the entire country, right? Just the number of jobs, the salary, the growth and whatnot. And it's not just limited to India, right? It's the entire world now. Right? So that's a great benefit.
Yeah, I mean, from my HR hat, it has its downsides where um, I send an offer and I have to double question, triple question whether the person will join.
Correct.
I thought we left those days back in 2020, 2021, but seems like they're coming back again. But yeah, I get it. Like it's not like we don't have options, right? But companies always have options.
Correct.
Folks should sort of choose their own career, right? Because you get one company has multiple. But Karthik, I want to come back to something you said. You're talking of micromanagement, for lack of a better word, right, from a founder side, which is the thing that PG made famous called founder mode. Uh,
Correct.
Most founders don't believe in it, and it's interesting. You seem to believe in it, right? In as many words. But do you want to go a little deeper on that? Like, what is it? Like, what is founder mode to you, and how do you think is like the right balance? You spoke of some nuances, but just curious to get a founder's take on it. Like, what what does it resonate with you? Like being very deep in the work, that's happening at a 250 employee scale.
Correct. Yeah. This has been, famous after Airbnb's, I think, way of
Hmm.
working, and they were a remarkable success, especially after COVID, right? They were about to go IPO, COVID hit, company collapsed, and they actually got back and then did a blockbuster IPO, right? And I think, yeah, there are two ways to, from a founder's perspective, the way I think of this is if you, when I split look at my day, there are always some projects which I would like to work on, right? And the project could be a new thing, sometimes could be improving an existing process or enhancing that, right? For that to happen, you have to get into the depths, right? It cannot be,
Hmm.
oh, example, we're looking at Spring Verify, this example of how do we reduce the time taken by employee to fill the background verification form, and after the HR has added them. Yes, at a high level, I can say, oh no, let's do AI calling, let's send out an email, let's send out more reminders, let's improve the communication. But if you don't do the job which is already being done, which is like literally sitting there, calling the candidates, understanding the reason, finding all the different, ways this can fail, you would never, first appreciate the effort if you had given this project to someone. And second
Hmm.
is you would probably misplan. You would say in your head it takes 2 weeks, but actually ends up taking 2 months and whatever $10,000, right? You would not maybe truly appreciate the success of it. To do all of this, you have to micromanage. You have to get into this mode of the founder mode, where you are involved every single day, right? It cannot be, oh, let's look at a weekly status report and then we'll take a call, next week. The founder, there's only limited things you can do, and you have to pick your battles. You have to choose your battles, and those 3, 4 things which you're picking at any point of time, you have to go really deep, because once you solve it, you ideally don't come back to it in a few weeks, right?
Hmm.
Few weeks, months. And for that to happen, that's where I think this concept of micromanagement happens. It's impossible for me or any founder to micromanage anyone, more than 50 employees. It's just impossible, right? All the time. You probably at any time you're doing a few employees, a few projects, a few, teams. And
Got it.
again, that micromanage is not really saying, getting into the depth of now I'm going to be assigning work, things like that. But it's like, okay, how do we take this existing process or existing project, existing task, do it really, really well? How can we improve? Sometimes the answer could be, it's not possible. You've done the best which
Hmm.
we can with the resources, but that at least in your head you have a checkbox, tick, and you've said, this is what we have. You have a solution for the future, right? Okay, maybe it needs more money, maybe it needs more resources, but whatever it is, you have a better solution and you have a better understanding. And
Hmm.
this is, 4 or 5 years or whatever, 6 years ago, this trend of founder's office, chief of staff started becoming more popular, right? Not EAs, but founder's office. Where companies
Hmm.
had multiple founder's office folks, multiple chief of staffs, right? And their job was not to do calendars, but was always do these projects. These projects which the founders focused on. Can we multiply that? And I remember,
Hmm.
Zomato's job description. It's very interesting. They said,
Hmm.
your only goal is to ensure that the Pinder Goel does not walk into a room looking stupid. Walks out of a room with everyone thinking, oh wow, when a founder knows everything, right? Like they literally wrote something like that. And it's to ensure the founder has full information, about the meetings they are getting into, about the projects they're getting into. Because yeah, the Pinder is at a level where I'm doing 3 things at a
Hmm.
time. He probably wants to do 300 things at a time, and he can only do
Hmm.
it with, like a team of folks, right? So it's chief of staff or founder's office is founder, you know, um, plus 10 other people with the founder's mode hat on, right? For that to be successful, you have to get into the depths. You have to have a balance, so you cannot, be in every single thing. That is just impossible. because then you will not be able to do your primary job, which is, and as a founder, your primary job is to ensure there is enough money in the company. You're generating new revenue, you're keeping your team aligned, happy, right? Those things have to happen, the P zeros, regardless of anything else, right? So that's why it has to be a fine line, and has to have a start and an end, right? To every project you're getting into. Otherwise, people have this thing, oh, the founder, Kartik, gets into every single thing, does not let us work, questions us all the time, and then this micromanagement thing, comes up.
It makes, of course, like everything you said, like from 0 to 1, it makes sense, and that's, I think, anyway the CEO and founder's job. Maybe even 1 to 10. But what about, let's say, when you are at a 10 to 100 scale, which is basically BAU? At that point, I think it's just more need to know, right? Or maybe just reviews, not knowing every little granular thing, right?
I would, disagree. I think the best founders
Yeah.
get into the depths even at that scale, even at beyond 10 to 100 and beyond, right? I think Dipinder from outside and looks like he
Hmm.
does the same thing, Airbnb, because
Really?
it, like we see like Zoom's CEO was a classic example of
Hmm.
answering customer service tickets. Yeah, that was customer service. There was a trend. He's doing customer support tickets, whatnot. So someone else can easily internally, people would have said, "Oh, wow, why is he micromanaging? Why is he doing our work? He's the CEO of the company, which has whatever 5,000 employees, right?" And this was at the peak of Zoom in the COVID era. So would not say, this has to stop. But I'm sure he did not do it for the rest, for like every single day for 2 years. It probably did for 3 months because he was trying to fix a problem. And after that, must have been a KPI. Can I do one, whatever, two tickets a week, right? It's the same thing. If I'm not joining my sales calls every single week, that means I'm not doing my job, right? But should I be joining every single sales call? That's too much. Should I join every single sales call for 2 months while we are trying to sell a new thing or we are trying to improve our sales process? For sure. Because if I don't do that and come, at a very high level, this is the way we pitch, this is the deck, this is, what everyone should be doing. One is people are not going to respect it. You will not, you'll probably not be able to understand how hard is it. You will not appreciate the results, both good and bad. You'll always have a fear. We do it correct? Did we give enough information? Did we get everyone's buy-in? Things like that, right? I think that's always a challenge, right? The founder mode is to be on where you get into the depths of project by project, right? And that's how I think about it. Optimize and move on.
Makes sense. Got it. I think we segued into a lot of other things. I want to come back to remote. See, I broadly had this in mind that, like you said, it is getting popular for folks to, candidates, good candidates to, want remote jobs, right? What that
Yeah,
means is inevitably there's going to be companies who, while there's always going to be large companies who'll call folks back, there's going to be smaller
correct.
companies who'll go remote first, right? Maybe hybrid, but there's going to be a lot of remote first companies also. And given that you guys have done this for so long and done it so amazingly well, wanted to sort of look at it as, I would say, a playbook or sort of like principles on how, to excel, or do your best when you're sort of either transitioning to a remote company or you're starting out and you want to be remote first, right? So broadly breaking it down step by step,
Sure.
point by point. I'll go one by one. Maybe you can give your take on how you've done it, right? So we can sort of later compile all of this as sort of like a playbook. First thing which comes to my mind is running everyday operations, right? That seems to be the toughest challenge. How do you run business?
Yeah, so what we do is every single team has stand-ups, internal stand-ups. We only discuss blockers, not updates, blockers or discussions. There is a Slack bot which will ask you at the end of the day, what did you get done today? What do you want to work on tomorrow? And any blockers.
Okay.
That is mandatory for every single person, including me, right? So I also do updates. Reason for that is when you come into the stand-up, the traditional stand-ups are people standing up and discussing updates, which I think is a complete waste of time. 15 people listening to that.
Mm-hmm.
One is people are going to zone out, they're not going to listen, all of that, right? So can we only discuss the blockers and discussions or any agenda items, right? So that's keeps stand up to say 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and that's what the stand up should be, right? It's literally should be conducted in a way where everyone is standing up. That was the notion, but I was lost over time. So that's the second thing. Third is any discussion, beyond a few minutes should be documented, right? At least post discussion notes be added in the channel. So we encourage every single person to do a Slack huddle and not a Google, Meet, because it goes
Mm-hmm.
outside of the system. Then transcripts don't come in. There's not a thread. Context gets lost. Stuff like that. So we, encourage only doing Slack huddles and not doing a Google Meet because it takes away people from that. And it's also transparent. Everyone gets to see. They can join in. They can listen. When they want. That's there. Then fourth is public channels, as in channels, sorry, not public channels over DMs. Even if it's a silly question, even if it's a stupid question, as long as it's not private, to you, like private to your team, is still in a private channel. If it's not private,
Mm-hmm.
HR related to for your own, person, it should be in the channel. Simple as that, because if you have this question, someone else will also have it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then we use, Albus, our own bot, which is able to kind of read through all this information, build up a knowledge base, answer questions. That happens all the time. What's a GST number? What's a billing address? What are the checks we do? What's the turnaround time? Things like that. And documentation culture, right? This is something which I think literally starts at the top. You do, as an I start documentation, start celebrating wins, discussing updates, discussing failures, being transparent. We publish our P&L, things like that. I think then the leaders, the managers start doing it. Employees look at it, they appreciate it. Just trickles down very well. We also with engage with we do an exec AMA, which is completely anonymous. People can post and we get all types of questions, right? Yes, there are some questions which are very hard to answer, some are valid, but at the same time, I think it's a great, a way to give people an opportunity to be heard and give feedback.
Mm-hmm.
That helps in a remote setting. Remember, I used to do, I still do a town hall every single month, and I got this feedback from other, leaders do it like sales, customer success, product, right? And someone gave that feedback, and we actually did that the next, next to the, next month or the next to next month. People really appreciated that because yes, I can probably talk about customer success, but the customer success person talking is a lot better. And then these departments are generally like a developer generally never gets to see the customer success or sales or marketing. So they are in silos, and that's a big problem in remote. Silos will
Mm-hmm.
always happen. How do you break that? Is just over communication, right? No update is too small. Uh, if even if it's 95% update, it's still fine. It's better now than late. It's a classic thing. Oh, I wanted to complete it and then I will update. That should not be the
Mm-hmm.
case in remote. At any point of time, when I was a developer, the way I was taught is you should just assume any point of time your laptop is going to crash. Everything is going to be
Mm-hmm.
lost. So push it to the cloud. And I think that's the same way in remote in documentation heavy culture. You should just assume you're going to be sick tomorrow or you're going to be on leave for a week, but you don't want your team to get hampered. For that, you're going
Mm-hmm.
to push the latest update from your brain to your team. It's the same thing as as a developer, you push the latest code from your local computer to the cloud. Right? I think that notion is the same exact process, same exact thing, but it just needs to be exercised really well. And have to always assume that you're going to be on leave and nothing will break, right? Or no one's work will stop. Yes, new things will stop. Obviously, team productivity will be hit, those type of things. But should not be, oh, person went on leave, now this project is shut down. And, I ran an experiment where I did not take a laptop. It was the first time, I think, where I did not take a laptop for 5, 6 days. And then now I've done it so many times. And it's fun to see that, to not take a laptop. And then, yes, phone is there, but then phone has limited access, laptop has a lot more. And it shows that it still runs. And sometimes we overthink, right? Even me being a founder, I overthink of my importance. And it's a fun, little, I think, experiment to see if it doesn't work. As in, if you're not there, company is not going to collapse, right? Like, and things will still happen. We'll probably still make money. We'll still be profitable. You might not grow at the same pace, but I think we all overthink our importance in companies, right? And that's doing a disservice to the team, because that means you've not built a great team.
And I think it's this culture that spills over on social media also, right? Because rarely do I see literally what you're posting internally get put
Yeah.
out, right? As the screenshots. I think it's an amazing thing you do. I wish I could do it. I wish more folks did it, right? Because what's good must be shared. And I think interesting you spoke of like your documentation culture. I think that's probably um, you were, I think, a couple of years back. You guys abolished notice periods, right? Like if somebody puts
Correct.
down their uh, papers, is it zero or there's a few days? Is it or is it completely zero? You can go off the next day.
You can, I think in the offer letters we've said 1 to 2 weeks, and
Okay.
generally happens 1 to 2 days as well. So it's not zero because there's still some knowledge
Mm.
transition required. We've done auto approvals though on resignations, but notice period there is still some knowledge transition required at the end. And more than knowledge transition, in most cases actually is finishing your current thing.
Mm.
It's an experiment which I want to run at some point, is making it zero, and but still seeing what would people do. And I have a very strong feeling that
Mm.
people will actually do 5 days and finish off their
Mm.
current work and then move on, because that's just the right thing to do. And everyone wants to be part ways amicably, right? And
Mm.
we use this boomerang platform by this Darwin Box folks, and we have a lot of bounce backs, and we keep getting more every
Mm.
now and then. Yes, remote is a great reason. People, when you go from a remote to a non-remote job, it's a huge change, right?
Mm.
Suddenly you have to start dressing up, you have to find a conveyance, you have to eat out, you're going to get unhealthy, you have to save more, right? Every single thing changes at home, at work, and how you live your life, right? But also, I think people miss that transparency, the culture, the documentation, having less meetings, stuff like that, right? So I think it's a mix of all of this.
No. But sorry, when you say documentation, is this after everything somebody is doing it themselves, or it's AI
Yeah.
transcribing and you're just copy pasting it, or somebody's actually
No,
writing
no.
everything?
Yeah, a person is actually writing. In
Okay.
most cases, yeah, there is a we use Sybil, which is record sales calls,
Mm.
internal calls as well. But most cases, it's person writing, because I don't think AI is, at least the ones we have seen, where it's actually saying 1, 2, 3, and removing the faff
Mm.
out of it, right? Ideally, we lead with an agenda. So I do a management meeting of me, customer success, operations, sales, tech, whatnot, right? 5, 6 people, and
Mm-hmm.
we lead that with an agenda, like come prepared, these talking points, prepared to talk about these agenda items, and then let's structure that discussion better. So that's what we do. I think it's not 100% possible. Yes, sometimes get distracted, you talk about other things, which I think it's fine to have some unstructured time, even in stand-ups and other meetings, but most of it should be structured. Because what I've learned is having unstructured time is nice. You feel nice. Oh yeah, we talked about this, we made a strategy,
Mm-hmm.
but the actual outcome is very less, right? You feel good as a person. And Abash, who runs marketing for us, says it very well. It's like you actually feel you got a lot done, but you actually got nothing done. It's one of those things where sometimes you are doing something for the just sake of doing it without really
Mm-hmm.
seeing if it's moving the needle, right? Um, Trying to think of a good example where you're just trying to strategize, but you're like your maybe the core is not ready, for an upsell or a cross sell, something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So very it's that classic notion of you want to be every person at some level wants to be looked as that they are hardworking, working hard.
Mm-hmm.
They're online all the time, they're working, but is that moving the needle? Maybe not, right? A very good example of this is I'm on Slack all the time. I respond to messages very quickly. But what if I check Slack every 30 minutes, for example? Will it
Mm-hmm.
really break something? Will things move less faster? Maybe, right? Maybe someone is waiting on a message from me. But will it actually impact the end result? Probably not. But
Mm-hmm.
would I have gotten more work in that 30 minutes of uninterrupted, time? Maybe, right? So I think it's that just looking busy for the sake of looking busy is not always the right answer. And that's very easy to do in meetings because you can be in
Mm-hmm.
meetings all day and be like, oh wow, I got so much done. I had 10 meetings. I had a very productive day. But like, what did you actually get done though?
Mm-hmm.
And I think Amazon has really done this well where they, keep talking about that classic pizza thing. Elon Musk also says this. Many, I think, leaders focused on execution, removing the layer of management have kind of reduced the need of meetings.
I think one thing like so when you let your mind free flow, right? And some of these
Mhm.
meetings, you're right. Some of the meetings are just the way we traditionally do updates and stand-ups is can obviously be better, right? Because not every
Correct,
company leads with an agenda, right? You're just sort of voicing out what you've done to look good. That happens a lot.
correct.
But there's also the fact where when you're just sitting sort of without an idea to without an agenda, but your
Correct.
agenda is to sort of ideate, right? Now there
Yeah,
is a school of thought where you can just let your mind wander, you take a walk, you get ideas, you brainstorm.
correct.
And that's sort of a segue to my next question on how do you do ideation and brainstorming? And I'll tell you where I'm coming from because one of the
Mhm.
big talking points of working sort of in office, right, is that you are together, you are collaborating, and you sort of ideate and bounce off each other, right? There's learning, there's sort of transition of ideas, you whiteboard, right?
Yeah,
That's one of the big things. And I won't say I completely disagree because I've also got of great ideas when you're sitting in a bunch, you're just writing on the board and something just clicks, right? That aha, that
correct.
probably could not have happened when I was solo. So how in a remote
Mhm.
environment, how are you solving for ideation and sort of brainstorming?
So I think taking out that unstructured time where you're saying, okay, this is 30 minutes, we have a problem to solve. You might actually not
Mhm.
solve the problem, which is also fine, but you will end up with a deeper understanding of the problem, which is a success in itself, right? But
Mhm.
all has to start at a problem. I think without that, you end up being very, very unstructured. And, there is a place for that, which is
Mhm.
like a catch up, right? At the end of the town hall or a Friday catch up, just having, one-on-one time and no agenda, but still some talking points
Mhm.
to, talk about. But at the same time, all this said, I think remote has this disadvantage for sure, right? Because,
Mhm.
you know, again, good and bad, right? Many times you have an idea, you think it's really, really good. If you're in office, you'll walk up to that person, stop whatever you're doing, stop, make that person stop, pull in three people, talk about it, and actually turns out to be a bad idea. So it wastes everyone time and you probably execute it, things like that. But in a remote setting, you take a step back and you say, yeah, let me write it down. And by then
Mhm.
you probably have structured it. So
Mhm.
has some disadvantages because when you structure it, you probably leave out some of the ambiguity, which might lead to some good ideas. But in most cases, just writing down helps. And then sharing with the team, you get things done. You'll probably move. he'll probably be able to move on that faster. And as you know, right, like in many cases, execution matters more than the idea. We over, we overdo the ideation. I think, overthink, okay, this idea is going to change our life, and it's never, that, right? It's always, how do we, everything in itself is good, but how do we execute, better, faster, right? And remote is good for that, but again, bad for unstructured ideation, which happens over, say, a coffee or a, whatever, right? Remote by nature, you're sitting in front of a laptop, you are removing many of those, I think, in-person things. Offsites help, right? We initially used to do offsites where it used to be no work. And I was a big proponent of that. No laptops, nothing. Then we changed, we did a recent offsite where we said there'll be a mix, I think, whatever, 60, 70% of work, but it's not like daily working, but just getting your laptops, working on something together, getting that unstructured learning, right? May I say if it's two people, two developers working on, say, a single ticket together, or if it's the HR team doing actually some recruiting, doing some onboarding, whatnot, to kind of see, there are better ways to do it, getting some of that unstructured learning. So I think there are ways to solve it, and I see slightly larger companies doing offsites every quarter. Having like the customer success team only come into one place, working, together. Those type of options are always there, but it's definitely not easy.
I think writing down hit the nail on the head. Writing down is a big thing, and we lose that when we are clearly think of it when we were remote slash hybrid in my previous company. That spilled over, right? When you had a meeting, we had to write it down. So when you came back to office, we had a habit of sending MOMs. And once we went full time, like once we went back to office, we lost that, right? And in the current environment, most folks like you have a meeting and then you disperse, right? And you've
Correct.
not written down the UMMs, and then next week you're like, shit, what did we discuss?
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I'm also guilty of it. Try my best, but then a lot of things sort of get slipped out. Um, cool. Next one, Karthik. On we spoke of execution also briefly, but what about decision making? Right? How do you do decision making fast, slow? Right? How do you do that on a virtual setup?
Um, I think decision making is easier when you have all the variables into play, right? And that generally is better in a remote setting or a documentation heavy culture, right? And I think fast decisions are generally better than taking more time. That's the way I like. Might not be the best always, but I like to run experiments, even if it's not the best way to, I guess, run a company. But again, at my core, I'm a builder. A lot of our leaders are also, and I'm okay, with 9 out of 10 things failing because we had fun doing it. My, my and the team's goals are slightly different in the sense that, okay, yes, revenue helps, money helps. It's obviously an important thing, but it's fine, if we fail tomorrow because we had a good journey. I think journey is more important than the destination. Destination, yes, would we, a lot of people have told me we should focus, we should be just doing one thing, not, run after every new crazy thing and all of that stuff, right? 100%, I think we would have been a lot more, successful if we had just done, say, only background verification and nothing else. Would we have had less fun? Maybe, right? It's obviously fun to build trivia, albus, whatnot. And if it pays the bills, it works well, obviously it's a great, success story. And doing experiments is also very fun because you learn a lot with that experiment, even if, many of them fail. It's just a different way of, I think, working. And in that, you have to be really, really quick in decision making. You obviously get better over time. You've done so many of these decisions, so many of them have failed. You just get better. And I think there's a right time, right place for everything. And it comes back to the type of company, the type of work you want to do. If money is the only motivator, then being, doing one thing it over and over again, you generally those people are the more, more successful. Assuming, there is obviously that thing goes well, right? Someone who'd been, say, in the AI world from 2015, 2016, or was doing AI before it
Mm.
was famous, would be a lot more successful now than a person who's done, say, blockchain, crypto, remote, you know, whatever, right? So it definitely helps. But it's just what you like to do. Are you fascinated the by technology or by the application of technology? I'm always on the side of application of technology. What can we use technology to make our, lives better has always been more fascinating to me than the technology itself. And that's the case for most of the company as well, I think. So it really, if that's
Mm.
clear, then decision making is easier. Yeah, this might not be the best way to do AI calling or experiment AI, voice in the company, but this seems like an easier way to, get it done, get it out faster. So let's go ahead with that, right? So that's a decision to make, which now becomes easier because you have clarity in your head.
Mm. Makes sense. Okay, last one and the biggest one of all, uh, on culture. Like,
Hmm.
how do you solve for culture, and that too so wonderfully, right? Are there any principles that you followed that's worked out for you that sort of, if someone's listening in, they can just sort of follow and just copy paste?
I wish, yeah, I don't know. I think it's one of those things. Culture is just the way you live your, life, right? And, work. It's
Mm.
every single thing, the way you, react to a message, the way you act in a meeting, the way you, execute on a new project, the way you declare success, failure, learnings. It's all of these small things which, come together, and, become the culture, right? Renewing your health insurance, being transparent, talking about Diwali gifting, holiday gifting, I think it's all of these small things which come together and,
Mm.
make up the culture. It's, I don't think you can really, we've codified, we have a culture handbook, we have values, but it doesn't matter if you're not living up to it every single, day, right? Yes, no person is perfect. You will make mistakes and whatnot. But as long as you live up to it 95%, whatever, of the times, it really helps because others see, they start doing the same thing for their teams and then, kind of translates across the company. So that really, I think that's the job. It's doing the right thing,
Mm.
always and being very, very clear about it. Small examples, right? Like, again, this documentation heavy culture. You are discussing, you're thinking about a new initiative, being transparent about it, maybe at the same time drawing a boundary line if required. If we ask where should be the next offsite, every single person is going to say,
Mm.
whatever, international, let's do Thailand, what, right? Let's do a different city in in India and not. But if you actually explain the reasoning, no, we want to do Bangalore because we get a GST benefit here. If we registered in Bangalore, international is a lot more expensive. There are other challenges to doing international offsites, whatnot. I think people appreciate that. It helps. And it also shows the
Mm.
way you've kind of taken a decision which kind of impacts everyone in the company. Publish your, P&L for the offsite. Then people say, wow, it's
Mm.
50 lakhs for the offsite. It's like, yeah, it's not
Mm.
cheap, Then the next time, oh no, it's 2x my salary. Should we do it every 6 months or should we do it every 3 months? Should we do it every year? I think those questions get some of those questions automatically get answered in your head. And as a CEO, you're not losing anything. What did you lose by
Mm.
being transparent about it or, at least inviting, discourse on it? Nothing. And you probably, it's a way for you to get, understand, the employees better and understand, what people are looking for. The US has taught us about this, right? The concept of town halls came from there. The concept of, employee questions, ask me anything. transparent with communication updates. It's always been in the US and many of these startups, right? And that's generally not the case in India, but I think it's increasingly
Mm-hmm.
changing. Where like open calendars, for example, how many companies have open calendars where you can actually then one step of this is seeing who you have a meeting with. The second is
Mm-hmm.
what time do you even have a meeting, right? How many companies can even do that, right? Very, very few. I think open calendars is a great concept. Maybe not for everyone. Maybe not for the say the C level. Ideally, everyone else should technically have an open calendar. Even in an open
Mm-hmm.
calendar, you can do a private, event, right? So those type of things, I think these are small, small things which you can't really, you can put it in a handbook, but at the end of the day, our handbook, as in our handbook, is public. It's on, it's on the website, but you have to follow through. And each of these things, get questioned, right? But do we need to jump through hoops to talk to the CEO? Are we having an open culture of, having employees ask questions? Small, small things, I think, matter.
Mm. Love it, Karthik. Everything that you said is it's the same for whether you're whether you're remote or whether you're in person, right? The principles remain the same. And it's interesting. We in our company also our calendars are open, even for the
Nice.
CEO. Uh,
Wow.
I I'm the only one who keeps it closed because there's some things that I don't want to make it. I didn't know even in open I could make some private, so I'll change mine tomorrow. And
Nice,
also on
nice. That's a great
transparency,
thing. Yeah.
big plus one. Right? I mean, if you're transparent, even if you're sitting beside each other, right, you're seeing each other every day. Then information that doesn't get trickled down, right, and
Yeah.
you need to solve for that through townhouses. Like we also publish our P&L. Go
Mm,
very tactical on exactly what we are doing, what is our 5-year plan, right? And I'm seeing that even though you see each other every day, the
correct.
questions that come that, hey, what are you doing? What are your plan? What are your strategies? How are you getting to this number, right?
Sure.
How are you getting to these magic numbers that we are talking about? It's kind of the same. Even if it was remote, they won't know. Even if you're seeing each
Correct.
other, you don't know, right? So we take time
Correct.
out to explain. So bang on. I think what you said works across the board, right? Whether you're seeing each other every day or you're seeing each other through a screen, irrespective. Cool, Karthik. I think before we come to the closing part of the show, it won't be my show without me going into AI. As somebody who loves AI, but specifically you, right? Because you guys actually built a product, Albus I'm talking of, right? Where AI, most people didn't even know what ChatGPT was, right? And you built Albus. I'll get to that. I'll get to more meta questions. But first, I'm very curious. Was that an experiment? You actually thought I'll build a product using AI, or
Mhm.
it's straight up an experiment that worked?
No, this was definitely an experiment. I think the problem was always there, which is how do we have a bot which can do better Slack search, basically, right? Which can, listen to every single conversation, be there to answer, and is like the CEO in many ways, in terms of answering, right? The person who knows every single thing in the company is able
Mm,
to answer, unblock people. So the problem was always there. We just didn't have the right solution. And I
mm,
have studied some bit of AI, back in Carnegie Mellon 2012, 2014. And so I, I think in my head, there was some type of solution, but it was technically very complicated, very expensive. What ChatGPT has done is it made all of this into an API and a black box. You just give it,
mm,
you know, things, and you use this as any other, how you do a call, how you interact with, a website, you use it like anything else, and then, it's as simple as that. Yes, there are more nuances and structuring the data, cleaning and whatnot, but at the end, it was an experiment. We said, let's try it out, and it worked. And now I think we have almost every single platform doing this, right? Chatbot
mm,
is almost like it's a given, right? Every platform has
mm,
built it thanks to AI becoming so, and then the price has gone down drastically. The ease of use of AI has also increased significantly, where these frameworks are so much easier to
mm,
use now. and finally, everyone else is doing it, so it's become table stakes, right? So all of those things has in many ways not helped, Albus from a competition perspective. And it's more like, okay, this has become, the status quo, right? It's the new status quo from that angle. Plus the integrations play, right? Like 5 years ago, if you
Mm,
have to integrate 10 different platforms, you have to work with 10 different APIs, was a
mm,
mess. Now there are many these integrators and AIs and whatnot kind of, make that streamlined and better, right? So yeah, that's where we started. Can we have a bot? Can we have a person or a bot? Which in my head was before AI, ideally a chief of staff and EA, right?
mm,
Someone who can block people all the time, right? Because people get blocked all. There's something or the other is always information. Asymmetry is there, right? Especially in a remote company or even in a in-person company, right? How do you kind of
yeah.
do that? Is there? How do you avoid repetitive questions, things like that? So that's where all of this started from.
Mm. I mean, it's the problem is there irrespective again. Another one, right? When you're in person, it doesn't help, right? Because all new joinees have the same set of questions.
Correct.
Uh, and I said you said this in the beginning, right? That there must be a public channel because if one person has a doubt, assume 10 people have the same doubt. Sai from a previous company used to say that, right? So, when that's why we made public channels. We put all the new journeys, and this is the time I'm saying when, Impale was going crazy. There were 100 people
Yeah.
in a month were joining. All
Correct.
100 were
Correct.
in one Slack, and there's always going to be one person asking questions. And we asked
Mm,
the others that why are you not asking? They're like, yeah, we had the same question. It got answered. But
yeah.
yes, somebody had to go in and answer again and again and again. But now,
Correct.
right, that answer
Correct.
is there in a handbook or somewhere. Awesome. So brings me to my last sort of very meta question, Kartik. You uh, you obviously like you've been deep in the AI space and you built so many products in the HR tech space. Where do you see AI the way it is, let's say today, and also talk of the
Mhm.
future? Where will AI make meaningful, significant dents, right? In the people HR tech function.
So let's look at AI where it's actually helpful, right? So there are three things. One is when you require mass scale, which is generally not possible with
Mm-hmm.
humans, because
Mm-hmm.
there's a cost of not just hiring but also training and whatnot, right? And it's a repetitive job, the same job over and over again. You've kind of gotten to a level where you've removed many of those variables. Second is it's a lot of information. And so, like say, think of an FAQ doc, which is 100 pages.
Mm-hmm.
Very hard for a human to remember those 100 pages. And it's especially coming from multiple places. Oh, to this call, you have to go update this system, and then you have to go update that system, and you have to go update this, right? That's not what people are really good at, kind of following a process to that T, whatnot. And then third is um, leave the modality, voice, text doesn't really matter, works across modalities. Third is where the ambiguities are very less, right? You're not the risk is low, right? It's not you're not having AI make an offer, you're not having AI, fire a person, terminate a person, right? So the risk is generally low, which is happens across the way, world in the HR, right? Answering a question from an employee. Yeah, what's the worst that can happen, right? Yes, some person asks you how many casual leaves I have, and you say 50, right? Yeah, it's a wrong answer, but there are ways to kind of put checks and balances for that. But would you have AI decide the performance review of a person and rate 3 out of 5? Probably not, right? So I think if you use this as a mental model, then what you end up having is your anything in recruiting, just pure numbers of scale. The number of people applying, the number of resumes, the number of recruiters it is required to scale, whatnot, build out resumes, all of those. In the HR function itself, I think employee chatbots, then just your surveys, your and everything, right? Writing a survey, making a personalized, analyzing the responses.
Mm,
How do you get, performance reviews? How do you get data from all different systems, put it into one
mm,
place? You ask an employee, let's do your annual performance review. Does the person remember what they did 6 months ago, 9 months ago? No way, right? Impossible.
mm,
But does the AI remember? 100%, right? Can the AI go pull it from your Jira? Can the AI go pull it from your Slack? Then AI pull it from your CRM? Sure. All those things are possible. That's a great, one to, kind of solve. And then, an HR tech company, we look at same lens and we're like, okay, what are some pieces in our software or in our processes which can be improved, if not completely automated with AI? And that's how we ended up, with this first, I guess, one of the first experiments of, which has kind of gone live successfully is calling candidates who've kind of have been invited by their HRs to fill the background verification form. Because guess what? Many people don't do that. It's one
mm,
more email, it's one more thing. They forget about it. They will ignore the reminders, emails, go to spam, they get unread, whatever, right? Can we have an AI bot call? Sure. Very, very, very less risk. What's the worst that can happen, right? We'll be rude, and we'll say the wrong company name, we'll say the wrong candidate name, we'll say we've sent out the email, but the person has not gotten the email. What's the worst? Person will get irritated, will call up the HR. That's it, right? Um, Very less ambiguous. What are the variables, right? Oh, I don't have time to fill today. I'm busy. I'm not joining the company. I will do this next week. I'm on a vacation. I don't have my phone. I know I didn't get the email. Can you resend? Very, very, limited variables.
mm,
You can kind of, write it down. FAQ doc for this will also be kind of, mostly limited, but at the same time, not something typical human being is, can do this because many questions can be asked. Oh, don't have my experience letter. What can I upload? I don't, I studied from whatever Manipal and I still haven't gotten my degree certificate. Right?
mm,
I have misplaced my mark sheet. Can I still proceed? So many questions which are there, which, if you're on the phone as a human being, you probably have to go look up, the question quickly and answer, right? You have to do that in seconds. It has all of that in their memory. Probably a better, person than you for this exact job. Right? So I think whenever it's a repetitive task, just needs to be done every single day. That's a great solution for AI. This is where we've kind of seen success. And we'll roll it out to more such use cases. It's not, a lot of people say AI is not taking away jobs, and then they come back and say, oh no, we laid off people because we have implemented AI
mm,
strategies, things like that. I think it's completely, very weird how people say that both both the things in the same statement, right? I think AI will definitely take away some jobs, uh, and will create new jobs, improve productivity if used well. Eh? But
mm,
many of these repetitive tasks will definitely be automated and will be automated in a cheaper, fashion, in a better fashion than the current processes. It's definitely the thing. Anyone says no, it's not taking away these, jobs. That's, I think, completely untrue because that person, when they have to lay off, will then use
mm,
the excuse
mm,
of AI for that, right? They are very, very clear, and this is, I don't know where we are on the track of AI versus AGI and how much innovation, what's the price, and things like that. But it's improving. Every single month there is some improvement. There are more use cases coming up. There better, you know, platform and plumbing coming for it. Better guardrails, people are more used to it. So I think all of the things are in the positive, in a positive direction. So I'm really excited to see what happens, and not just, from the HR, but, overall and the way we work.
I agree. So broadly, yeah, I mean that's I think the ideal way we are at today. I mean, not just HR, as you said, everywhere, like whatever's repetitive. You can do it fast. You can do it scalable and sort of no context loss, right? I'm just worried about one thing, honestly, right? What Sam and everyone is saying that 2025 you'll have AGI, right?
Yeah,
What they've been saying it forever, but let's assume in a couple of years you have it, right? One of the problems that will have is AGI will be able to make decisions about people.
correct,
If you again you don't have guardrails, right? That will become a problem. Today, you're right. It will take away jobs. Like we know it, right?
correct,
The number of when it comes in recruitment, the number of callers, right, will go away. Today, CS, not CS, customer support. Yeah, a lot of the jobs have been eaten away. It's just the truth. But
correct.
I'm just a little worried. But when AGI comes, and it will, and you let
Hmm.
one lazy HR brings in AGI and let sort of just simple things maybe, right? Taking a decision on someone's performance, right?
Correct.
Giving that person three or a four, an AGI can ideally make that decision.
Yep.
I don't know what happens then. We'll see. But I'm fairly sure it's going to happen, right? And you'll have an
Yes.
AI taking decisions on someone's behalf, which is one of the things that a lot of debates have happened in performance. Should you
Correct.
let an AI do performance today? The reality is today AI just won't do it that properly, I suppose, right? It'll be able to,
Sure.
like you said, pull all the data and give you good summaries. But will it be
Hmm.
able to look at a cultural standpoint? Probably no.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, let's see. Let's see what happens. But again, quickly wrapping up, this is short term, right? This is where we are today. Long
Sure.
term, have you thought of anything, right, on the trajectory you're taking, keeping AGI aside? Let's say someone's building, right? There's an
Hmm.
entrepreneur's building something with AI in the HR tech space.
Hmm.
Um, what should they keep in mind? What should they just simply build today,
Sure.
or let's say for
Sure.
the future?
Sure. I really like the way, I think Rippling is building. I think if you're able to build the core foundation, which is your kind of employer record, you are
Hmm.
technically able to build any type of, application on top of it, right? Everything around work, right? So like your entire work OS, right? Which is the way you communicate, the way you get, say a Jira type of thing, the way you get work done, the way you do sales, the way you do customer support. All of these things are, we are using softwares for all of this, but it's at the end of the day, it's all rules, and rules based engine and a database, which is all leading to an outcome, right? You don't need a Jira. You don't need a sophisticated software if you have a system that says, okay, this is, and it's a document, right? This is the project roadmap. These are the tasks. Can you automatically, assign it to the, everyone? Does not need to be a ticket. Why do you need a ticket? Is because the developer is coming and say, okay, what should I work on today? But if the AI is already doing that, with, the all the
Hmm.
rules and engines built in, can do. I think the same thing needs to happen in the HR world, right? Where your core foundation is so strong that these extra things, become a top on top of it, right? Like applying for a leave is a conversation. There should not be a UI, right? There should
Hmm.
not be anything for it, right? Performance management, doing a survey, there should not be a need to, go in, create the questions, things like that, right? Ideally plugged in with your other, systems as well. Same thing happens in your recruiting world as well. You pick up the phone, you call the company, your resume is created, tailored, you have a first round with the AI, and it's not really AI assessing, it's AI trying to find a fit between you and the company, and
Hmm.
maybe taking an initial call, summarizing the next one, telling the next interviewer, this is what the previous interview has uncovered, these are the areas you might want to touch upon, stuff like that. I think across the board, this will only, if you want to really, really take a long-term bet, foundation has to build really well. The interface will probably look very different, and it's not going to have these rules. It will be like everything is going to be an outcome focused thing, right? And outcome is not, in the recruiting world, outcome is not how many people you've actually hired. It's probably how many offers you've made, how many people you've interviewed, right? I think that's going to be the outcome, but not how many open jobs you have, how many active jobs you have. They're very, very different. yeah, so it's really hard to imagine how, what will happen. I think last 2 years, everyone said the new form factor will be just chat, which I disagreed, and I still
Uh,
disagree. I don't think text heavy will always be the thing, because sometimes it's easier to click, like, again, and a leave is a good example. It's easier to click, and apply for a leave than writing whatever 10 lines or so, not 10 words, right? Sometimes easier, especially when you've been trained to do it. But if there is a voice thing,
Voice,
maybe
it's much easier.
that's
Yeah.
easier. So it really depends. But if you're asking me, if I have to do reporting and I have to, know, read out what report I want, it's probably hard. But if I can
Mm.
click through UI, and see, okay, this report is now ready, put in some filters, probably easier. So it
Mm.
has to be a mix. So it's not just the interface, but it's also the way it works. I
Yeah.
doubt, it
Mm.
will look like, what we have right now. And yeah, and some companies are also already trying to tackle this, outcome based, and the not having these rule based engines, but reimagining
Mm.
the entire software stack a company uses to work, not just for HR.
Yeah, that's gaining popularity, like outcomes as a service, as everyone's talking about. Yeah, I think you're right. I think uh, across all what you said, rippling. If you have the foundational layer, if you have all the data, right, all of this is sort of you're building on top of it. So yeah, interesting times. I just hope people like you and folks listening in, if there's a builder, just builds, because the last thing we want is the people function to again fall behind. People function has traditionally always fallen behind with technology. HRMS, just got popularity post COVID. Right? When I
Right,
was
right,
2017, early days of Darwinbox, I had to feel questions of what is an HRMS, why is it needed, why can't I do it on an Excel sheet? Right. So
hmm,
today, like that's like sort of table stakes. I hope we build more products and our function. Cool, Karthik. This has been amazing. I think we've gone way beyond time. lot of interesting conversations. Yeah. Any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
I think probably in the HR world, as you mentioned, one thing is, yeah, it's enough is enough. We have to stay ahead of the curve. We have to at least stay in line with the curve and not,
Hmm.
behind. There is that, yes, there will be challenges, there will be risks, there will be, failures. That's the case in any, world, right? Does it mean that marketing and sales and, developers and all of them don't fail with AI? They definitely fail. Tolerance of failure is a lot higher. That's probably not the case in HR. And I don't think the risk is, high in many of these cases. Just have to go out there, try it out, build up a business case. I think people are generally more than happy to look at it. While, as the world kind of talks more about the people function, and employees are again becoming an asset and not, a cost center and things like that. And HRs have a way of, improving productivity. It's not just looking at the traditional HR, but also looking at the way we work, because all of that technically comes under, HR. Can we to, improve the productivity of the company by using AI, or at least talking about it, and, uh, im- across the board, just a lot of improvements there.
All right, Karthik. Thank you for coming on. This was awesome.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope it's a good conversation and people got some takeaways from this.
Yeah, yeah. There were a lot of interest. I'm sure this will get a lot of interest on our social medias. Especially like you said, like so many people who are interested in remote, in AI, so many builders I've met. Right, a lot of interesting nuggets. Again, thanks, Karthik. This was fun.